Good morning. Am I audible, students?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the last class, we are talking about a multi-phase converter. Multi-phase in this specific case is a two-phase converter. So two-phase buck converter, I had drawn the circuit. Just basic topology. Two buck converters connected like that. Uh, two switches, two diodes, two inductors, but one common capacitor. And the difference is that everybody will be these two converters are independent buck converters, uh, having the same independent properties that we have understood. Only thing is that the capacitor current is the summation of the two inductor currents, because the load current is now coming through two parts. There are input side, there is one part consisting of one switch, one diode, one inductor, and another part consisting of identical one switch, one diode, and one inductor. Their duty ratios are same. D is equal to 0.4 in both the cases, but the duty ratios are but they are phase shifted. The phase shifting, by phase shifting I mean that the pulses, the on time pulse of this one, let us say converter 1, this is conv 1, and this is converter 2, conv 2, will be phase shifted by 180 degree, just like a two phase system. So 180 degree is which one? 180 degree is half the time. This is a 360 degree, 180 degree will be here. So 180 degrees here means the second converter on pulse is applied here. Second converter duty ratio pulse is applied here. This is the second converter, conv 2, and the first converter duty ratio pulse is applied here. This is conv 1, right? And the first converter is off after that. Subsequently, it is off. That means diode is conducting. D1 would be conducting. If I consider this diode, this as D1 and this as D2, then this is the zone when D1 is conducting. This is the zone when D1 is conducting. Whereas the second converter, the converter switch, actual active switch Q is on there, is this. You see, this is shifted by 180 degree. Total period, any period, is considered to be 360 degree. The TS corresponds to 360 degree in angular representation. So this is 180 degree. Converter 2 is 180. Converter 2 is initiation. Pulse initiation is after 180 degree, and it has the same duty ratio of 0.4. Let us say, just to give a number. It doesn't mean D has to be always 0.4, but you understand that it's just to give a number. So therefore, we have shown that the inductor current will not understand anything. Any individual inductor current doesn't understand anything, that what is happening to the other converter, and no way related, because its connection is not changed. Its connection, inductor is either connected to this switch node. Yeah. So, hello, can you see my screen? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So something I have lost because this software resetted. So you know this, one of them is turned on this portion, the other one is turned on in this portion. Yes, turned on this portion, though d fiducial looks a little different because of my inaccuracy in my drawing, but they are all d is equal to 0.4, d is equal to 0.4, identical. And inductor current has no way of understanding that what is happening to the other conductor, each inductor current. So IL1 builds up like this, IL2 builds up like that, and the total current that is going to the capacitor, that is where the difference comes, and that is where the advantage comes. The capacitor will be seeing relatively, capacitor voltage ripple will come down compared to what? Compared to if there were no phase shift. If there were no phase shift, then what would have been the voltage ripple? If there were no phase shift, what would have happened? These two currents would have been in phase. If this is not operated as a multi-phase converter, that means the turn on of switch Q1 and Q2, if they had happened at the same time, then this same current will be going, right? The two currents will be overlapping, and the correspondingly the total current will be double this individual current. That will be double, just double. Just double. You understand that there is nothing, this thing IL1 plus IL2 is double. So the capacitor current responsible for this thing will be what? Capacitor voltage is responsible for what? The ripple, and the ripple has also doubled. I have not drawn the ripple correctly. It will be double. Ripple is now, if the ripple is delta I, then this ripple is 2 into delta I. That will be the case. So therefore the capacitor voltage ripple, if you don't change the value of the capacitance, will double, right? But that is not happening when you are doing phase shifted converter. So when you are doing phase shifted converter, the currents are not, the inductor currents are actually phase. Oops. Oh man. I'm losing control over this, over the drawing part of it. Now I got it. Okay. So, so if I look at it now, so this would be, let us try to do a simple calculation here. So this is 0.5. This is the full period. So I am drawing one current waveform. This. The second current waveform, let us draw in another color. This, and let us say it has to come down here, so it has fallen something like this, and then fallen something like this. So this is the, obviously these two things will be parallel, these two lines will be parallel, right? So hope you understand. So this is what is delta I, the ripple. Let us call this initial point as I naught. That means this one is I naught. So I want to sketch the, first one to sketch the summation current. This is IL2, this is IL1, and if I sketch the summation current, it will be, the peak will be happening here, and you observe that there is a double frequency current. The frequency of the summation current will be double the value. So let us sketch it. This is this point plus this point summation, it will come here, and if you look at it, this point plus this point summation is also the same value. So this is same. So this is this. Right, right. So if you look at it, why I'm saying their summation, this point is equal to this black here is equal to red here, and the red value is equal to the black value, right? Black value, you see. So this is becoming periodic at double the frequency of the individual inductor current. This is nothing but IL1 plus IL2, which is being seen by the capacitor. The capacitor node is getting this current as this. So this is this one. This is IL1 plus IL2 is seen by the capacitor. And it is double frequency. And you know double frequency has very good thing, right? Because any ripple C dV by dt, if the frequency increases, right, the frequency delta V will be less because delta T is less. Just a common sense, C dV dt or delta V delta T is gives us the value of the current. So if delta T is less, then delta V also becomes less because delta V is delta T into I by C. So and delta T is less because now the frequency has increased. Earlier the frequency was Ts, this time period was Ts. Now this IL1 plus IL2, the time period is Ts by 2. That is the time period, okay, for the summation current. So let us see if we can calculate what will be the value of the ripple of the summed current. Value of the ripple of the each individual current is delta I. That is what we have defined. So what is this? Let us call it delta I sum, delta I I total, delta I T, delta I total. That means delta IL1 plus IL2 currents ripple, right? So how do I do it? Let's look at this point. This point, what is the value of the initial value? Initial value is I naught plus, that is due to the first current, black current, and then the next one is this current I naught and extrapolated up to this. That is the slope is there, delta I by if this is D, let us say it is D, DTS. D means DTS. I'm not writing TS, just you understand that. This is D and this is 1 minus D. 1 minus D. So therefore the fall current has a slope of delta I by 1 minus D, and it is going up to how much? Into 0.5. So so that is the that would be the value of ripple at this point due to the rate current. Rate current initial value is delta I naught. So the total is I naught plus delta I naught would be the current at this point. This current, let us call it I1. Let us call this current as I1. So I am saying what is I1? I1 is due to the black current delta I naught, and due to the red current is I naught plus the slope is false slope is how much? False, it is falling delta I in time 1 minus dTs. That is the slope, right? That is the slope. Delta I, it falls in 1 minus dTs. So that is the false slope. And from here I am back calculating, progressing this way. So this value I need because I need this value. So this value will be how much? Delta I by 1 minus D, and this time is 0.5, and TS cancel. So that is what is I1. And I want to know now what would be I2. So I2 is how much? Due to black current, it would be I naught plus delta I, that is due to black current, and due to the red current, it will be again this is delta I by 1 minus d, that is the slope, and duration is now, it is d, so it is duration is now 0.5 minus d, right? 0.5 is the full one, this thing 0.5 is between this point to this point, 0.5, this is d, so therefore duration is 0.5 minus d, so that would be that I only have drawn this plus I naught will be delta I2, will be I2. I mean to say this is due to black. This is due to black color current, and this is contributed by red color current at the peak value. At the peak value, right? So if I want to know what is the new what is that delta IT, so difference is delta IT, so this minus this, so which one is cancelling? So our 2 I naught is cancelling, and this is delta I, let me take it inside, this is 1 plus point, not minus, 0.5 minus d by 1 minus d, plus minus 0.5 by 1 minus d. Please check whether I am doing correctly. Please tell me if I am making a mistake. So this is delta IT, because it is nothing but difference between I1 and I2. This current I have defined as I2 and I1. So I2 minus I1 is this, I hope. Then this is equal to delta I into 1, and this is plus 0.5 by 1 minus d, minus point, that cancels. So what remains is 1 minus d by 1 minus d. Is it right? Am I doing correctly? Minus d by 1 minus d. So equal to delta I into 1 minus d by 1 minus d is equal to delta I into 1 minus 2d by 1 minus d. Have I done it correctly? Hello? Anybody? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are visible.
Yes, sir.
Achha. So let us say, let us compare what would have been the ripple if they were in phase. Then delta IT dash would have been 2 delta I. So what is the ratio of delta IT by delta IT dash is equal to delta I into 1 minus 2d by 1 minus d by 2 into delta I. So delta I cancels, so it is 0.5 into 1 minus 2d by 1 minus d. That is the advantage you are getting. So what is the value of this? So let us take one number, d is equal to 0.4. So if it is 0.4, this is equal to 0.5 into 0.4 into 2 is 0.8, 1 minus is 0.2, and this is 0.6. So 0.2 by 0.6 is a half, 1/3. So it is divided by 3. So it is very big, 1 by 6th factor is coming in the ripple compared to what it would have been had it been a in-phase converter. This is multi-phase converter, that means phase shift is there. So this type of converters are quite popular and very much used in some circuits where you require a lot of current, but your switch individually, a single switch should not handle it. Should not handle it. There will be problem if all the dissipation happens in one switch. So what you do is you distribute the current for engineering reason, for practical reason. so it is kind of a distribution. Always things are good if they are distributed, because individually the devices are not stressed. So such kind of converters are used in, there is one Pentium power supply called VRM, voltage regulator module, that has 4-phase, 6-phase buck converter structure, which essentially converts 12 volt to 7 volt, 0.7 volt. You understand that 12 volt to 0.7 volt, but at the 0.7 volt end, the current requirement is 200 ampere. So now you imagine how difficult it will be if all the current has to pass from the one MOSFET and one diode. In fact, they don't use diode, they use another synchronous switch, but that is besides the point. So they don't use the diode, they use synchronous switch. So multi-phase converters are practical, very, very practical, and you get the core idea. Core idea is everything identical, and the pulses are phase shifted, like 3-phase. You just see the basic similarity with 3-phase structure. 3-phase is, every phase is identical, but they are phase shifted by 120 degree. They may be sinusoid, and here it is not a sinusoid, it is a kind of rectangular pulse. So what? I can phase shift any shape by the amount I require, and I can call that as a multi-phase, 3-phase, 4-phase, 3-phase buck converter. It doesn't have to be a AC concept, right? It doesn't have to be any AC concept. Here also there is an AC. Obviously, a pulse means AC. Pulse has a DC part and an AC part. So in that sense, there is AC. If I do Fourier transform of the pulse, I will get a DC thing and a high frequency switching frequency component. So that AC part is there, and from that perspective, it is also AC in a sense, because there is high and low. In a sinusoid, there may be continuously varying positive and negative. Here there is a positive and 0. That implies that there is a AC component to this waveform, an average value, and then and over that there is an AC value. That is okay. And so my point is that you understand things from the essence part of it, so that you can easily apply to any other unknown situations also. And what should remain within you from this discussion is that this is giving a very good, it is helping the capacitor a lot, hugely it is helping. First of all, it is changing the frequency. The IL1 plus IL2 has a different frequency than IL1. So this frequency increase is helping, because the capacitor has to charge and discharge quickly. So that means it requires less storage, right? Its storing requirement is reducing, because it has to do it for a smaller time as the switching frequency, as the frequency of the current waveform is increased, right? So that is one part. I am not doing the complete derivation, but you can do a derivation and find out for a 2-phase converter what will be the ripple, what will be the voltage ripple. You can easily do it, because now you know what is delta I. The average current will be going through this. The average current is now going through this. Average current is this. This is the average current, right? And this is the ripple current which is passing through the capacitor. You can easily find out what will be the voltage ripple using the same way. Okay, the triangle. Yeah. Yes.
So, like in this case, the average value of the output current will change, right? In this case, in the 2-phase buck converter, or
yeah, that is the requirement, that we want more current to the load. That is the first specification is this. Suppose you have, what I'm saying is, suppose you have a 10 ampere buck converter, but somebody says I need 10 ampere buck converter connected between 12 volt to, let us say, 2 volts. Understood? 12 volt to 2 volt, 10 ampere. You have designed it. Now I say no. I want 12 volt to 2 volt and 60 ampere buck converter, or 40 ampere. Let us say 40 ampere buck converter. What will be your approach? The load will require 40 ampere. So you have to give 40 ampere, right? So one way of designing is you choose a device that carries more current. You choose a diode that has to carry more current, because you know the duty ratio is same, isn't it? Hello? If it is 10 ampere and 40 ampere, duty ratio is same. Do you agree to that or not? No response. 12 volt to 1 volt, 10 ampere, and 12 volt to 1 volt, 40 ampere. Is the duty ratio different? So what is different? Different is the component values. Whatever MOSFET you had chosen earlier, I hope you in the first session of this course you have learned how to choose a MOSFET for a given current rating. So you chose a MOSFET, but the same MOSFET cannot be used in the second case because it is a 40 ampere. But what you can do cleverly is that I have already designed a 10 ampere thing. Why don't I parallel it? It is a kind of paralleling. Do you realize that it's a kind of way I'm paralleling? So why don't I parallel it? I have already done one modular design of 10 ampere. So why don't we do for 40 ampere this, right? So therefore what we do is we use the identical switches and connect them in a multi-phase way. Multi-phase way means the way I have shown. But after doing that, is that the best? That means obvious thing will be just give the pulses, identical pulses to all the 4 MOSFETs. Same time, same pulses. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. That will be the common sense thing. But what we are saying is don't use common sense here. You can gain better by cleverly applying a pulse in phase shifted manner. That means 1 pulse first, then the 2nd pulse here, then the 3rd pulse here, then the 4th pulse here. Then what is happening? The capacitor is seeing faster cycles. It is seeing high frequency cycles. That is the point. That somewhere, if you do multiphasing, you look at it in this way. Current multiphasing, you gain advantage in voltage ripple. Some other way, there will be dual. You will learn later in a series connection way. When you do this is all parallel connection. You know that electrical engineering there always exists a dual. I can also go to a structure while things are connected in series. That means we have done, let us say, 12 volt to 1 volt converter, and I want to go to 12 volt to 4 volt. Let me connect them in series. Suppose I will do that, right? Then what will be the advantage in the current is less ripple. Inductor current ripple will come down. So multiphasing is an advantage in this way, and there is a dual advantage. When you are paralleling in the inductor current, you are getting an advantage in the voltage ripple. When you are cascading the capacitors, right, you will get advantage in the current ripple. In the current ripple from the source, that is the advantage you will get. Here also you will get the current ripple advantage from the source. If you add them, you will see a different different current coming from the supply system. You will see. Let me tell this at least. Let me tell this at least. What is the current drawn from this source? Here I have exhausted this page. So let me add another page. So what is the current drawn from the supply system? You see, first current is this. This is 0.5 and 0. Rest of the period it is not conducting. And what is the current in the second one? Right? So what is happening to the primary side? Primary current waveform, not primary, input side, that is IG. I am drawing IG1, I am drawing IG2. And what is IG1 plus IG2? That is the input. So that is okay. So that will be this way. This way, this way. So it has become double frequency. This is 0.5. This is 0.5. This is also 0.5. 0.5. This is what is DTS. Right. 0.5 TS, 0.5 TS. This is TS. So this is how the input will see current. Now, as such, in this circuit, there is not much advantage for that. But in real life, what will happen is you will not use a source like this. Here we are thinking that this source current is discontinuous. But in real life, the actual source will have a filter here. That means buck converter has one input filter. Input that I am not showing because it is not coming in the essential operation of a buck converter. So it is filter, input filter, and then you put switch, then you put down. So this filter will get advantage if it gets this current instead of double the IG1 current. So this has advantage here. This is advantage. Again, because this is a capacitor. The capacitor is seeing a pulsed current, high frequency current. This capacitor, this load, this is actually Ig1 plus Ig2. Right? If they are in phase, you will get a current double this thing, everything double. But here it is not double, it is high frequency, it is shifted. Okay, so this way, and this will work even if D is greater than 0.5. It's not that there is any problem, there will be a problem if D is greater than 0.5. No, there is no problem, they got automatically summed up. So this is the advantage of a multi-phase thing. Multi-phase is a very good tool or trick to distribute power and get some advantages in the filter components, means capacitors and inductors. Their values will be coming down comparatively, relatively. Either the value will come down for the same ripple, or for the same capacitor, the ripple will come down. Magnitude of the ripple will come down, one way or the other. Either you maintain the same ripple and reduce the value of the capacitor, or you maintain the same capacitor and get an advantage in the ripple performance. So yeah.
Sir, for two-phase buck converter, like what happens to the critical values of the inductor, like K critical, those things?
Oh, K critical. K critical is you take it individually, you take half power and analyze it. Just you consider half power, because inductor current is inductor current, individual inductor current. So that will be decided based on the half load current and things like that. Have I answered you?
So like in this case, like see, if one inductor goes into discontinuous mode, the other will also go into discontinuous mode, right? Because
yes. One will go into discontinuous, the other one will also go into discontinuous mode. Or other one also will go into discontinuous. And since you are raising a question, I can even think of a situation when one will go into discontinuous mode but other will not, because if I choose two different value of inductors, then I may be able to make, I am more or less sure that I will be able to, I have chosen two different inductors, L1, which will not be case, the practical case people don't design for fun, but yeah, it is good to think this way. Normally these two inductors are there. So if this is discontinuous, this is also discontinuous. If it is continuous, it is continuous. And the critical parameter is 2L by RTS, whether it is greater than 1 minus D, that we have learned. That 2L by RTS, here what is R? R is not this R. R is 2R. R is, if this is called R because it is a combined it, you have to think that this is 2R. 2L by 2 RTS, that we have to, because individually it is seeing half the load. Okay, so 2L by 2 RTS, if it is R, if you call combined resistance are R, so individual resistance is 2R. So if this thing is greater than this thing, it will be in CCM. If it is less than that, it will be in DCM. Have I answered you? It may be possible to keep one of them CCM and one of them in DCM and get a funny kind of current waveform. But we are not violating any of the electrical engineering's basic Kirchhoff's laws and things like. We are not shorting anything. I can play with any kind of current waveform here. I can make it discontinuous. I can make this continuous. So what? They will get added up, whatever way it will. But then it is not a truly multi-phase, because multi-phase means symmetry. Listen, just one second. Multi-phase means symmetry. When you say in our three-phase systems, we always assume that the voltage magnitudes are equal, the frequencies are equal, isn't it? When you say a 415 volt three-phase system, so we are assuming that phase-to-phase voltages are equal in magnitude, and only difference they have is, and unequal in frequency. The only difference they have is the change in the phase. So similarly, so then it may not be, it is definitely a converter in the structure of a multi-phase converter, but it's not working like a multi-phase converter, because multi-phase implies symmetry. Yes, tell me. Yes.
So like as you said, like if I choose two different values of inductor, like if one is in continuous mode and the other is in discontinuous mode, then what will happen to the output voltage, right? Like one will try to like set the output voltage to like D by D plus D2, and the other will try to set it to D VG.
Yes.
So like
it's a good question, but output voltage cannot be two different values. So with that value, the inductor ripple will be decided. The change that will happen is in the inductor current ripple. You have to assume that the output voltage is something V0, right? And then see that you will decide the output voltage later, because output voltage you will decide by what way? By taking the average of these two currents equal to the output current V0 by R, right? One is CCM and one is DCM. So you add IL1 plus IL2. So IL1 plus IL2 average has to be V0 by R. So with that, you have to then find out what is V0.
So like in that case, by using volt second equation, can't we find the output voltage?
Yeah, but what is the V0? Output voltage you do not know. In the discontinuous conduction mode, you do not know. But oh, okay, I will tell you answer. I will give you. Because that one of them is in the continuous conduction mode. Listen to me carefully. One of the V0 will be dictated by the thing inductor, that is that phase that is in the continuous conduction mode. So that will be the thing. But with that voltage also, the second one may be in the discontinuous conduction mode, because we have given a different duty ratio. For example, let us take, it's a good question. Let us little bit investigate. Let us declare. Suppose it is one of them in CCM, one inductor here and another inductor here. So let us say this I have given duty ratio of 0.4. D is equal to 0.4, and the inductor value is such that it is in CCM. So I had taken an example, 10 volt as the input, 10 volt and a switch and a diode, and this is the capacitor, because this is the common capacitor. Let us put it a common capacitor, and I have operated it like that. So this current is continuous. Yes. So this voltage I will say is 4 volt. There is no way it can be different. But the inductor current, if it is considered continuous, there will be a volt second balance. Now this one, there is a diode. Okay, I chose such a value. This 0 point is common, right? And let me. 0 point is common. So 0 point is common. So this is also 10 volt. This is also 10 volt, right? This duty ratio, let us say, is 0.2. Let us say D is equal to, or shall we say it is 0.4? Let us give it a 0.4. Let us operate like a multi-phase converter, give it 0.4. But the inductor value I have taken, okay, very low, and I have put the current into discontinuous conduction mode. So what I'm just drawing a current waveform corresponding to, let us call it IL1. I am drawing, it is starting from 0. The duty ratio is 0.4, and the inductor value is so small, because I said that 2L by RTS is responsible. You are making duty ratio same, TS same, but L is in my hand. So L, with varying L, I can put the current like this. This for this current IL1. So it is conducting D is equal to 0.4 here, but here it is D2, right? The other inductor current may be, so let me put it 0.5 somewhere here. So that is, let us say it is starting from here, and it will go like this, and it will go here. So from here to here, it will come back to this thing. So this is what is IL2, right? And I'm back calculating. I will tell you what I am doing. So let me choose this current to be 4 ampere, right? And let me choose that this average of this current, this average value of this current is, let us say 4 ampere, approximately same value. Let us say 4. One case I have taken the peak value as 4 ampere, another case the approximate value is of 4 ampere. So I will say that this what is the slope, because this slope is Vg minus V naught, and the output voltage will be this. Because of the continuous conduction of the second one, output voltage is clamped to 4 voltage. So it will be 10 minus 4 by L into 0.4 into Ts is equal to 10 microsecond is equal to 4 ampere is equal to Vg minus V naught by L into this is the duty 0.4 into 10 microsecond, that is 4 ampere. So L is equal to, in this case, L1, let me call it, which is discontinuous conduction mode. L1 is equal to 6 into 4 divided by 4. So it is equal to 6 microhenry. So we had seen the other one was about 15 microhenry, and I have this case chosen as 6 microhenry. 6 microhenry. And what will be the output current? Output current is the average value of this plus average value. One of them is 4 ampere, I have decided. So this current will be how much? Half of base into, I can easily calculate what will be d2ts. So d2ts will be how much? D2 will be how much? Half of, what is the slope? Slope is V naught by L in that duration. So V naught by L is now, V naught is 4 by L, L is 6 micro into D2 TS is equal to how much? It is 4. So 4 cancels. D2 is equal to D2 is equal to 6 microsecond. Okay, 6 microsecond is making it, D2 is just going to touching that. So I will little bit change it. I will make it 2 ampere. Let us say it is 2 ampere. Let us say it is 2 ampere. So L1 is equal to 6 into 4 by 2. Yeah. What I am getting is, very interestingly, it is also going into continuous conduction mode. 1 minute, just 1 minute. Okay, I agree. It will also be in the one of them is in continuous conduction mode, other one also will be continuous mode. Worst case would be this current will go and touch this one, but it will be just on the border of continuous and discontinuous conduction. I will tell you why. See, in the discontinuous conduction mode, the law is that the diode is discontinuous. Therefore, this voltage will become this voltage. Therefore, there is no active current in this. But now, if this current is continuous, if this current is going here, this current, this point is 4 volt. This point is also, if I discontinue, why this point is too continuous? 1 minute. I have to probably think a bit more. So I cannot calculate it. So I chose a 4 ampere peak. So assuming that, and the remaining time I am getting L is equal to 6 microhenry. So 4. Okay. So 4 volt is getting by 6 microhenry to D2 TS. So D2 becoming equal to 6 microsecond, which essentially means both of them are conducting. Why is it happening is, okay, since it is clamped by this, it will have only matching condition for CCM. If one of them is in CCM, the other one will also be in CCM. I am understood it. So this thing, this specific thing, 10 to 4, this 10 to 4, if it is there, then it has to be equal in CCM. This one. Only thing will be that it worst case it will be like this. It will go this and come to 0. If you chose even lower value of this thing, inductor, then it will go like this and again come back to 0. So this both of them will be in CCM. Yes, now you can ask. I understood. Yeah. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, understood.
See, this type of 10 to 4 imposition is making the other one also go through that 10 to 4 imposition. So therefore, their ripple will change. If you change inductor, it will ripple will change. Ripple will change. If you further reduce the inductor, it will reduce change. But it will always come back to 0. Always come, because 10 to 4 is implying that it has to this way. It has to operate. D2 will be equal to 1 minus D. Has to be. Because D is, if the D is, obviously it is. D was 10 minus 4. So D2 has to balance. In order to hold second balance, it has to take the remaining portion of the thing. That means it has to take 1 minus D. Right? What happens in CCM is it doesn't remain 4. It makes 5 volt. That's why the current can afford to come down to 0. Because it was 5, it was more, right? It was relatively speaking, this voltage is more. So therefore, the current, whatever way it should have increased, has not increased because it is 5 volt. It might have increased a little less. That's why can afford to come down to 0 and remain there. So this is what I am trying to point out. So the moral of yeah, tell me. Yeah.
So like basically, like if one of the inductors is in continuous mode, the D2 of the other inductor will adjust itself so that it also comes into continuous mode, right?
Yes. Only thing is that it will start from 0 and end at 0. That current will start from 0 and end at 0. It will not have any pedestal value. That is what it will happen. If you, because you may say I can continuously reduce the value of inductor continuously. Well, reduce, that will only increase the ripple. That only increase the ripple in that inductor. But it again comes back to the 0. It has to come back because this 10 to 4 imposition is saying a volt second balance of D and 1 minus D. That is only possible thing. D is 0.4 and 1 minus D is this thing. That is the possibility. Now one may think, let me make it a little more complicated. Let us say that D of this one is not 0.4. Let us say D of this one is 0.2. Then what happens? Then it may come to discontinuous. Let me see, it may come to discontinuous or not. Then it will come. Let us say this. Let us say we have put 6 microhenry and D is equal to 0.4. D is equal to 0.2. Let us say D is equal to 0.2. So how much is this? That is 10 minus 4. 10 minus 4 is the output divided by 6 micro into 2 micro. Right? So it is how much current it is going? This is 3. So 6 by 3 is equal to 2 ampere. It goes to 2 ampere. It goes to 2 ampere. Now this current goes to 2 ampere because its D2 ratio is this much, right? Then how much time it takes to come down? Because it is a 4, the off time voltage is 4. 4 by 6 into D2 TS. D2 TS is equal to 4 by 6 micro. So D2 TS is equal to, I need to find out what is D2. So that is equal to 2 ampere. It has to come down to 2 ampere. So what is D2 now? This is 10, TS is equal to 10 micro. So micro cancels. The D2 is equal to 2 into 612 divided by 40. Right, 2 into, let me do it, 4, 6 micro is the inductor I have chosen. D2 TS, it has to come from peak value of 2. So this is correct. So 6 into 2, 12 divided by 40. So how much it is? 310. That is 0.3. Yeah. So D2 is equal to now 0.3. So this current will come down here. So only if you change the D2 ratio, instead of 0.4, you make it 0.2. Then you can bring it, one of them, into discontinuous conduction mode.
Like in that case, still the output voltage will be governed by the one in continuous mode, right?
Yes,
it will be
the
governed
one
by the
in
duty
continuous
ratio.
mode. Yes. Now, since we are putting in the other one also 0.4 duty ratio, it was implying that it has to go into continuous conduction mode. But if you relax that condition, that the asymmetry is much more. It is asymmetry is one of them duty ratio is 0.4, another duty ratio is 0.2. Then you can make it go into discontinuous conduction mode by choosing very low value of inductor. It is possible to make it discontinuous. So one of them in continuous and another of them in discontinuous is possible, but it is not possible if both of them have got the same duty ratio. Makes sense? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is what but I am going very slow and not slow. But actually, I hope you are learning something. Then one new idea I want to introduce is that one is called coupled inductor buck converter. Coupled. These are different ways people solve practical problems. Different ways. One of the ways I told you, it is a very important design ways, that is multiphasing. Another way sometimes people solve a problem is, I will show you, that is called coupled inductor. Let us call buck. It could be buck or whatever later you will learn, buck, boost or something. Coupled inductor converter. Coupled inductor implies it is normally used when we see that the actual application is asking for a very small duty ratio, like 12 volt to 0.7, let us say 1 volt to 1 volt application. So you see the duty ratio is 1/12, very low. If it is very low, let us say 1 volt and 100 ampere. So what will be the current waveform? Can you see from the input side? Input side current waveform will be like this. I am ignoring the ripple. If there will be some ripple, I am ignoring. But the switch Q will see this kind of thing because it is on for DTS and D is 1/12, and this current level is 100 ampere because inductor current is 100 ampere, because inductor current is equal to load current. Therefore, only when the switch is on, it is getting a very big spiky current. That means switch is not properly utilized. Most of the time the switch is off. Most of the time diode is conducting. That is not a good thing. Normally we prefer that the currents, the switches are better utilized. So that means the duty ratio is close to 0.5. So then the current is well distributed. It is 50% of the time the on state is taking the burden, on switch is taking the burden, and 50% of the time the off switch is taking the burden. That is how we. It's a common sense also. I mean, it looks very awkward that 100. Not only that, you will learn later that when the spiky things are there, this portion is responsible for switching losses. This steep rise and the magnitude. The switching loss depends upon how fast it is rising, as well as the amount of current that you are switching. So this amount of current we would like to reduce it, because the power is how much? This 100 ampere into 100 ampere power is going how much? 100 ampere into voltage, input voltage is 12, and the time period is 1/12. So this is 100 watt, this is 100 watt. That has been done. I would have better like to put it in this manner. Why not this manner? So if I want to make it continuous 50%, it is if I want to make the thing conduct for 50% of the time, so here will be, what will be the level? The level will be 4 ampere, because I have made it duty ratio is equal to 0.5. Suppose I have made 0.5. So then it will be how much? So how it is not 0.5, 12 volt into 0.5 into I level is equal to 100 watt. Sorry. So I is equal to how much? 100 divided by 6. That means 16 ampere. Sorry, 16 or 17 ampere. 16.9640, 16.7 ampere. About 16.7 ampere. So this kind of reduction is possible if you have a better duty ratio. That means you let the device conduct for about 50% of the time. So that from that perspective, we develop a converter called coupled inductor converter, where we can increase the duty ratio. Our intention is to increase the duty ratio, because increasing the duty ratio for the same power implies the reduction in the current level, the reduction in the inductor current level, the reduction in the switch current level, the benefits in the switching loss aspect of the converter, right? Conduction loss, you may assume that to be same, because conduction loss is I RMS square into RDS on. So maybe this current RMS and this current RMS may be same, or somewhat close. But huge advantage will be there if you can afford to reduce the level of the current in the switching loss aspect of the converter operation. And so what the circuit will be doing is it will be using an inductor. First is a switch, an inductor that is a coupled inductor. That means this, and here they will connect there will be tap. There will be tap in the inductor. Let us say they are distributed in various ways, I can name it, but then after that capacitor, after that resistor, this is the switch Q, and I can name it in various ways. This thing, I can say the total inductor is L. I can say that the first part of the inductor, that means this part of the inductor, is, or let us say second part of the inductor, it will be as the first part of the inductor is L1. This is self-inductance, and second part of the inductor, self-inductance, is L2. This is self-inductance. Self-inductance means only that part of the inductor will be carrying current. The other way we can define it is as number of turns. So I can say that L consists of number of turns N. L1 part consists of a number of turns N1, and L2 consists of a number of turns N2. So not only that, whenever there is a coupled circuit, we need the dot convention. Dot convention means current flowing through the dot terminal will produce flux in the same way. So I put a dot terminal here. Let me put a dot terminal with the red dot, and let us say this is dot, right? So that means any current that is going through that coil produce the flux in the same direction as the current flowing through that second dot terminal in the same direction. So these fluxes are added up. So this is what is the implication of the dot. Otherwise, if one current is positive, suppose one coil is there, there is a dot, here is a dot. So one current is going like this, and if you can show that since there is a tap, it is possible the other current is going like this. So these fluxes are now cancelled, somewhat cancelled, because this dot is producing flux in certain direction, and this current is entering the dot. Here it is leaving the dot. Here it is entering the dot. So that will produce the current in the flux in the reverse direction, and the total flux linked by this circuit will be the summation of these two currents. So summation of these two currents will dictate what will be the total flux linked by the circuit. So we'll try to analyze this converter in the next class and try to see how they improve the duty ratio of the converter. When I'm doing this analysis, I must understand that I'm doing it for buck converter. I will not do similar analysis for a boost converter or a subsequent any other converter, because I am trying to teach you the principle of operation, how to look at a coupled magnetic circuit and understand it. Similarly, multiphasing is possible in boost converter on all other converters, because it is nothing other than paralleling parts of the converter. So you understand that in the next subsequently when I will teach, I will not teach about this kind of variations. Then you have to practice and self-learn that part, because good enough analysis and detailed analysis is being done in the class, and you should be able to handle that part of circuit. So I will stop here today. In the next class, that is Wednesday, I will quickly do this analysis, and that will be and then follow it with boost converter and buck boost converter. Thank you very much for listening. If any question is there, next class you can ask me, or any one or two questions you can even mail me. I'll try to respond in emails. I always respond in emails. If there is any technical doubt, you raise the question. I try to answer it, or if I am not able to handle it, I'll discuss it in the class. So I am closing now.
Sir, can you upload some like practice problems in the file section for like?
Yeah, I will upload. I will upload. Just give me another 3-4 days. I will upload. A little buck boost I want to convert, complete buck. I have completed buck, then boost and buck boost. These 3 I will complete. That means I'm hoping that Wednesday, by Wednesday I will be able to complete. Maximum Friday. Then I will upload these questions. In the next weekend, I will upload these questions. Okay.
Okay.